Hey Garth,
Hey, Jason, how you doing, my friend?
man, it is a good day. I'm still high off a win. The Calgary Cavalry. If you can see me, I'm wearing all
Oh
my
yeah.
Cavs gear today. This isn't the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is Calgary Cavalry of the CPL won the championship game at home at a sold-out arena. And Marco Carducci, one of our previous guests,
Former
was
guest.
in
Yep.
net. He was in net, and a big day for Calgary. So there you have it. I'm,
That's
I'm doing really good. How are you?
yeah, I'm great. I was inspired last I think it was last week you showed up in your Cardinal gear. So the season is over for the Jays, but I thought I'd represent Toronto and wear my Jays baseball cap.
That just means the off season started, Garth, and so
Yeah.
it's exciting time for the Blue Jays. Probably more exciting
Count
than the season.
yeah, countdown to pitchers and catchers has begun.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah.
Garth, we talked a little bit about coaching in this episode as we get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on coaching? Do you have a good coaching anecdote or story to kick us off for this episode?
Oh sure. I talk a lot about basketball, but I was also a rowing coach.
No,
Um,
really.
yeah. And being a rowing coach is a very special thing because when you are training alongside, like on the river, on the lake, whatever, or on the ocean, when I was at Brentwood College School, you're in a motorboat. You're right beside them. You've got a blowhorn. You're coaching. But when it comes to the actual race, this is the amazing thing about being a rowing coach. You push them off the dock. They are on their own, and you just have to make sure that they know that you trust them.
Right.
You have to
Perfect.
make sure that they know they can trust each other. And so coaching in general, but specifically, I think coaching rowing, where you go into these like dark places in your head halfway through the race and all that stuff, you've just got to build that trust and build that level of autonomy and agency that they can do it.
Wow. I mean, that is just a great kickoff to this episode on trust and
Yeah.
empowerment. We're going to talk
Yeah.
about everybody from Parker Palmer, who's an incredible author. We come back to Brene Brown, and we talk about an interesting TV series called Welcome to Wrexham, and a
Yeah.
lot of things in between.
We talk about the speed of trust by Stephen Covey as well. I think that's important too. There's a phrase that we put out there called "change happens at the speed of trust." So yeah, this is a great conversation that kicks off trust and empowerment, listeners. We hope you enjoy.
Enjoy the show.
With Garth and Jason, we dive right in. Breaking down Ted's world, let's begin. From AFC, Richmond's Field to your day to day. Lassoing leadership's here to stay. Keep leading the lasso away. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show. With lessons from Ted, we'll learn and grow.
Welcome back to Lassoing Leadership. I'm Jason Rogers.
And I'm Garth Nichols. Welcome back. This is episode 1 of our first and our latest triad of podcasts on the leadership theme, empowerment and trust. So today, in the next 15 minutes or so, we'll take a look at the role of trust and empowerment in our leadership practice. The next episode, we'll speak with 2 amazing guests and authors. And then our third one, 2 weeks from now, we're back to listener Q&A. And Jason, I have to say, we've been really enjoying the questions from our listeners.
I was going to just say that, Garth. I think they're so good, and I'm enjoying all 3 levels of this triad. And I trust that we will be empowering our listeners
Yeah.
throughout this. So yeah, there you go.
See what we did there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So listen, trust has been at the heart of many of our conversations so far, and our amazing guests have all touched on it at some point in our deep dives with them. So why don't we dive in a little deeper, because I'm excited to spend some time intentionally into the what, how, and why of building trust and empowering others with, I think, someone who's an expert, you, Jason
Oh,
Rogers.
thanks, Garth. Well, we've already
Yeah.
had a couple of different themes in leadership, empathy and positivity. We talked about building relationships, all of these things, and touched on importance of trust throughout them. Trust seems to be that, thing that binds everything in leadership. So let's start there, Garth. I'm going to throw it back to you because you're the go first guy. What's your understanding of trust, if you're going to, for our listeners?
Sure. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
I think when we're talking about trust, there are so many different ways to look at it, but 2 different ways of thinking about it that are a little more concrete. I don't think these are right or wrong or good or bad. I think these approaches are all sort of contextual, the two ones that I'm talking about.
Okay, so there's two different ways to think about trust. Tell me more, Garth. Let's get into it. What are they?
Well, one is the very often turned phrase of, you have to earn my trust, or that trust is something that is earned. Are you familiar with that one?
Yeah. That's pretty familiar, but I'm happy to hear more. So keep it going.
Yeah, it's the idea that when you work with someone, you are creating, I don't know, like a tally or
Sure.
a bucket of marbles, so to speak, of whether or not they can be trusted, and that builds over time. It's a pretty transactional approach, but some leaders can make this work. Like, do you make it work, Jason? Like, do you have an example?
Yeah, I think, the example really is the trust you give is the trust you get, and I think, you hear about it through, Fullen and others about capital, right? And how much capital you put in, like your bucket of marbles bit there, Garth. And I think it's just a matter of, saying, I see you, I hear you, I understand you, and you are safe here. So let's start from there. And I think, you build trust in those one-on-one relationships. And we do heads reviews, for instance, at our school, and they're not about reviewing performance or reviewing anything, but they're really about building relationship and building trust. So it should be more like the heads trust and relationship meeting, basically, is sitting down and getting to know people better. So I think that's a great place where the trust you give comes in, for sure.
Yeah, and you're a big reader. You do a lot of reading. Yeah, you've got a book that you turn to for trust, don't you?
Yeah, I think, it's a bit of an academic one, and it's a bit of an old one, but The Speed of Trust by Covey, the Stephen Covey, argues that trust is the foundation of successful relationships and organizations. Trust isn't just a soft value or one of those soft skills. It's a measurable impact on efficiency, productivity, and even, profits and organizational success. Covey breaks down trust into tangible components, asserting that it can be understood, taught, and most importantly, actively cultivated, just like in those meetings. He explores, that idea of capital through trust taxes and trust dividends, where low trust increases costs and delays progress, and high trust accelerates growth and strengthens bonds. Covey is a master at talking about these things, and this book I remember just being top shelf. He introduced lots of actionable items that create sustainable trust, such as demonstrating integrity, transparency, and accountability. Anyways, Garth, I can't recommend it enough. If somebody wants a longer read on this subject, get into Covey and trust. Speed of Trust.
Yeah, and I think there's a phrase that we use often in Cohort 21, which is that schools change at the speed of trust, right? And so you always have to take these moments of building trust, and I love what our previous guests have talked about. So that's kind of the first thing. The first way of looking at trust. I think there's another way of looking at it. And again, there's so many different ways, but I would mention the second one, which is that you give trust. Trust is in fact not earned. It is given, just given. Does that make sense?
Yeah. As I think about Garth, you just said that, and it reminds me of starting this podcast with you, really, buddy. I mean, we trusted one another that we could do this, and all of a sudden, we got listeners in 52 countries and 7,500 listens on Spotify, and we're 60 or 70 episodes into this. We met dozens of really, really cool people, and we just trusted that could happen.
Yeah, and there, within that moment with you and I, when we were first, I knew you had given me trust, so I rise to that occasion. There's an element of accountability, expectation, that we are going to put these in our calendars and we're going to make this happen. There's a dark side to this. Like, if trust is given, it can be taken away. But I would argue that it can't. Once trust is given, that person has been endowed with your trust.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool, Garth. Why don't you? I'm sure you have an example of this in your practice or life. What comes to mind first?
Yeah, I think trust is given in the hiring process. When you're onboarding someone, that is the giving over of trust. I think that's really
truly
important.
Is.
But let's go back to the roots of this podcast. Ted Lasso, coaching, all that stuff. I think teams are a great example, and it's one of being a teammate. As a coach, I really try to emphasize that. When I've got players in the basketball court, we have to trust one another. I talk about trusting the defense. The nature of sports, of basketball, it's high pressure, it's strategy, working collaboratively towards a goal. like, especially when you're working on a defense, I'm a huge fan of zone defense. You need to trust in your teammates. So as a coach, I emphasize trusting our teammates, the systems we worked on offensive, defense. It can be powerful if people are willing to invest their trust. So you have to create the conditions for people to be given trust, but also for them to accept your trust as well.
Man, I always love, I do love the way you expand this podcast into your basketball team all the time. It's like the Garth Booster podcast. But I think it's like, I think there's something there though, Garth. I think like leadership is everywhere. It's leadership on the floor with your players. It's leadership in Lasso. It's leadership in our schools, in our positions. I don't think leadership or this podcast stays within just one series. I think it's truly the magic of this. And truly, I do love hearing about your basketball stories, Garth.
Thanks, Jason. I do think this is what makes Ted Lasso, the show, so great. Like, sports are an analogy for other situations that are also high pressure, strategic, require collaboration, require systems, trusting the process, working towards the goal. So boom, there it is. There, that's all I got for you. Now, Jason, you've talked about another way of conceiving trust. And in fact, you talked about it this past week with Pete Bombachi. And you call it being trustworthy. Trustworthiness. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I don't think you can earn or give trust without being trustworthy yourself. And I think it's simple for me, Garth. It comes down to just a few things, and it's got a lot to do with building safety in organizations. So first of all, I think saying it, you can trust me. This is a safe place. Let's have this conversation. I think secondly, it's what you do outside of that conversation in your leadership that further builds that trust. So when you're in the community, are you living authentically by the principles which you espouse when you're in that initial individual conversation? I think over time, if you lead it that way, so first you say it, then you lead it, and the third one is you earn it over time, just like Covey has said so many times with capital, or Fulham for that matter, about trust capital you're building up. And then eventually, once you've done it, you've said it, you've led it, you've earned it, you're living it that way. And I think that's where there's a flywheel of trust, where people just inherently trust the goodness or the principles which you've espoused. So it's practice. It's practice. We're talking about practice here, Garth. I think that's what is required when we look to build trust.
I also like that, that first part, say it, is you name it, right? Like you can trust me. I really like that. And I see trust and empowerment deeply intertwined. In a real way, it can be linked to a leadership theory, but I want you to tell me more about that, Jason. What's the connection between trust and empowerment?
Okay, so this is, I see them being deeply intertwined, and in a real way, in leadership theory, this can be called distributed leadership. Okay, and I think too often we look at distributed leadership and we just do what it says, but we don't understand the deeper underpinnings of it. So do you mind if I just take a second and break it down?
Yeah.
Just take about 30 seconds. So, in the research or in the practice, distributed leadership is a framework that redefines leadership as a shared collaborative practice rather than a role limited to those in formal positions of authority. So effectively, Garth, everybody can be involved and should be involved in distributed leadership. At its core, distributed leadership rests on the belief that leadership functions best when responsibility and decision-making are distributed across individuals in a group and organization. So in short, decision-making as well as responsibility for those decisions is distributed. Okay, it's not just go do the work, everybody's doing the work. It's decision-making and responsibility. The approach recognizes that there are diverse skills, insights, and expertise of all members, encouraging each person to lead in the process. And I think it creates, flexibility, buy-in, ownership, all of these things across the entire community. So I think it's huge, Garth.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, back to you, Garth. How would you take concrete steps as a leader with your team to build empowerment through trust? Have you seen it? Have you done it? What have you experienced?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've definitely seen it. I hope that I've been able to create a culture of trust and empowerment. And I think it goes back to something we've talked about in the past, which is sort of this, the ability for the people that we are leading to have a certain level of autonomy over the decisions that they make, but also that they feel like they are growing in their role, that they are expanding who they are in their own role. So you can do that as a leader by taking concrete steps like consistent communication, active listening, making sure people are heard and valued, and what they say is valued. But also, I think by setting clear goals. The clearer you are, the less questions people have before they make a decision or before they go and do something. And to encourage them too, like you said before, name it. Hey, I trust you and I need some decisions to be made, or I trust you and we need to go keep this work moving forward. I had a principal I used to work with who just said, just go for it. Just promise me one thing. No surprises, right? There should be nothing coming out of left field. They gave me very clear goals. We stayed in constant communication. So the more that you can empower faculty and staff to make decisions confidently within sort of a shared framework of goals and process, I think that's the way to go.
Well, I think it's like comes back to safety, to succeed and fail on your own terms, and knowing that, failure isn't terminal. It is you're likely to experience a non-catastrophic failure and learn from it. And I think that's really how we learn in our leadership along the way.
Yeah. And I think, I can't help but think of Danny Rojas. Football is life, but it is also death. His, going back and I forget who gave him the ball, but they gave back the ball to Danny Rojas to take that shot. It's like, we trust you. And even if you fail, we got you. Like, again, going back to like the lessons in Ted Lasso about trust and empowerment, I think is really huge.
Amazing.
Yeah. So listen, before we go, what are some quick hits in building trust and empowerment that we can direct our listeners to?
Well, listen, I got one that's a little bit outside the box here, but it's related to soccer. And I want to come back to a series called Welcome to Wrexham. Have you heard of this, Garth?
Oh yeah. I've seen them all.
Oh man.
It's brilliant.
And this is like, I think this is empowerment and trust 101, right? Okay. So listen, if you haven't seen it, you got to go tune in and check it out. But what we have here is, Ryan Reynolds and Ryan and Rob McElhenney.
Yeah.
I get Rob's last name wrong. McElhenney.
Yeah.
Go to this town in Wales and purchase a soccer club. Okay, you might be wondering, like, where does trust come into this? Well, they had to earn the trust of the community off the top, right? Do you remember those initial town halls? Like, we're not here just to promote our show. We're here to build this community. Once they had the trust of the community, notionally, because they had to vote to allow Ryan and Rob to buy the team, they started to give the trust back to the community by, this is your heart, this is your soul, let us support you. Okay. And they hired great GMs, hired great managers, and then brought the community back around the team and empowered them to really build the spirit. And they've had quite a bit of success down there. So I think it's kind of a fun, interesting way to look at trust and empowerment through the lens of soccer and leadership.
Couldn't agree more.
And what these two have done has just been absolute pure magic down there in Wrexham. Yeah. So I hope our listeners take us up on watching that.
Yeah. All right, I've got one. I've got two quick ones.
Let's have it.
Yeah, so gotta go back to Brené Brown. She's got a great podcast, and in this series, which is called The Anatomy of Trust. We'll link to it, but in that she talks about braving, like breaking down the anatomy of trust into specific behaviors. Yeah. It's super brilliant. There's also a short read that we'll connect to, was put onto this scholar called Parker Palmer.
Oh,
and
so
some colleagues of mine in the States through iScene, which is a great organization. We looked at this reading, and it's a reading from Leading from Within. So indulge me for a second.
Yeah, let's go.
Parker Palmer writes, "We have places of fear inside us, but we also have other places as well. Places with names like trust and hope and faith. And we can choose to lead from one of those places, to stand on ground that is not riddled with the fault lines of fear, to move towards others from a place of promise instead of anxiety." I'll stop there. We'll link to it. It's 5 pages long. Highly recommend.
And Garth, I don't think we'll get into the geopolitical landscape of the world right now, but I really do hope that as we talk about leadership, you and I, we often talk about a positive, more compassionate or kinder way to lead. And I really believe in that. Like, I still believe in the fact that if we lead from a place of trust as opposed to a place of fear and or anxiety, I think not only we, but the people we work alongside or lead are probably in a better place too. And so that quote really does resonate with me, and I love Parker Palmer, and courage to teach is just a central figure, central piece.
Yeah. Nice.
And so that, and it reminds me just of the quote from a TED Talk once: it's better to trust and be betrayed than not trust at all. And as a leader, we have to build trust, give trust, and sustain both in ourselves and in others and in our organization, to allow ourselves to truly thrive and succeed.
I love that, Jason. That's a great message. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no. Yeah. So, I think for our listeners, whether you check out Parker Palmer or Brene Brown or, Ryan and Rob from Wrexham, I think it's worth checking them out. And if you have questions or ideas you'd like to share with us, we're all ears. We'd love to hear more from you, our community. And we trust that you're going to bring them for us, right? And we empower you to do so. So how, Garth, how can people get questions to us if they're looking to?
Sure. Like lassoingleadership@gmail.com. Send us to them as a listener did last week through LinkedIn, Spotify, or Instagram. A whole bunch of different ways. If you work with Jason, if you work with me, stop us in the halls. If you want us to tackle a particular question around trust and empowerment, that would be great.
Yeah, these are truly the central figures of leadership. So let's lean into it. I'm looking forward to next week's episode. Garth, do you want to quickly tease it for our listeners?
Yeah, next week we're going to be talking to two incredible human beings. They worked with me at Havergal College on sort of consulting, and they've written a book. That's all I'm going to say for now, because I think it's going to be a nice big surprise for all of our listeners coming up next week.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be one of the best episodes we've had, and I hope it inspires a lot of people. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, folks. Thanks so much. Jason, you want to lead us out?
I sure will. Until next time, keep leading the Lasso way.
Thanks, everybody.
Step up to the mic. It's time to play. Lassoing leadership every day. From the pitch to the boardroom, lessons call to mind. Keep leading the lasso way. You'll find we've got heart, we've got soul, and humor too. Exploring how TED shows what leaders should do. With Garth and Jason, we dive right in, breaking down TED's world. Let's begin. From AFC Richmond's field to your day-to-day. Lassoing leadership's here to stay. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show.